At least. That's what I always say. When I really don't know how many years it's been, I always say 100 years ago. And everybody knows that couldn't be possible. But we are really, really glad to see you tonight, and welcome to this presentation. I know that you will enjoy Doug. He is the best storyteller I have ever heard. And we just always love to have him out here. So with no more introduction from me, here's the fellow you came to hear, Doug. Give him a hand.
Well, I'm taking Helen on the road. With that kind of an introduction, I need that. Good to see everyone. This is awesome. I love coming here. You're my favorite group in all of Minnesota. I said that this afternoon in Wayzata. But honestly, it's been always great to be out here. And when Helen booked me 2 years ago and we couldn't make it last year, but now we're back. Isn't it great to be back? Awesome. Well, how many are up here for the first time to hear me? You've never heard me before. Where have you been? Do you know that I do over 300 presentations all over the Midwest? It's great to see you. Great to have new friends. For the rest of you that have seen me before, what are some of the programs that you recall that I've shared? What are the topics? Schoolhouses. America's First Ladies. Barns. Yeah, we kayaked down the Mississippi, didn't we? How many's back is still sore from that trip? We did churches years ago. And we've done courthouses. Absolutely. You guys, thank you for remembering that. Tonight we have a really fun show. And for those that are new, I'm a Minnesota historian. I'm a storyteller. I'm a photographer. And I've roamed around Minnesota for the past 30 years, capturing stories about us, our stories. And I love Minnesota. How many are from Minnesota? How many wish they were? Do we have anyone from Wisconsin here? One in the back. Stay back, please. No, I'm joking. I'm glad you're here. How about Iowa? Oh, we got one from Iowa, one from Wisconsin. We got to have somebody from the Dakotas, though. We got one over here. We're all complete. But Minnesota is a wonderful state. It has a lot of great history, a lot of great stories. And tonight's program is called Name That Town. Now, when you saw that on the Facebook page or in the bulletin, obviously it was about towns. But did you notice that the way I use that word name, I use it as a verb? So what does a verb imply? Action. That means this is not me up here talking for the next 3 or 4 hours. No. That means participation. You remember the show back in the 1970s called Name That Tune? How many remember that on TV? Don't worry, you don't have to sing. But I want you to participate because we're going to do some exercises tonight, and let's have some fun with it. Because you know Minnesota, and I know Minnesota, and we're going to explore Minnesota. We're going to explore towns, and many of the towns and how they got their names, but I need your involvement. But don't worry, like any good game show, there are prizes. Now I got your attention. Some of you are going, really? There's a box behind me. But you got to earn it. So no sleeping, and please participate as we talk about towns. Now, before I get into the pictures here, have you ever thought about the definition of a town? How does Webster define the word town? Anybody have an idea? By size? Yeah, that's one of the definitions. In fact, I wrote them down here so I wouldn't forget them. A compactly settled area, usually larger than a village, but smaller than a city. So by size. How about a compactly settled area as distinguished from surrounding rural territory? Like now then, right? But one of my favorite definitions that Webster came up with, he defined it as an English word, and it comes back from Old England, as a village that has a fair or a market in it. Okay, so we've all been to towns that have a fair or a market. That was a definition of a town, according to Webster. But in Minnesota, we have over 850 towns. I've been to them all, I think. Not really, but I've been to a lot of them. And we're going to talk about towns tonight. And you're looking at, and Pastor Nate, can we get the lights turned down a little bit? You're looking at Minnesota's largest town. Now, we don't think of this as a town, we think of it as a city, right? But I guess technically it would be defined as a town. It's Minneapolis. How big is Minneapolis? Sue, what do you think? How big is Minneapolis? No, but population-wise, how many people in Minneapolis? 1 million, I heard, and I heard 30,000. Let me tell you, you're both on each end. Okay? According to the last census, about 440,000 people live in Minneapolis proper. Okay? So it is our largest town. Now, for a prize, if Minneapolis is our largest town, what is our smallest town in Minnesota? Not now, then not peas. But I like the way you guys are thinking. You'll win a pack of my photo greeting cards if you can tell me Minnesota's smallest town. It has a population of 5. Yes. Ottumba. Ottumba is small. If anybody doesn't know where Ottumba is, it's up by Kettle River. And it's where the Great Cloquet Fire started. Ottumba is small, but I think it has about 8 people. What town is smaller than Ottumba? How about Day? Well, Day is an interesting town. You like lutefisk, don't you? I knew you did. It's larger than the town of 5. Right here. Cuamba. You guys are picking some doozies. Do you know Cuamba is the only town in Minnesota that starts with the letter Q? And what does Cuamba mean? It means mud hole. How would you like to have that on your return address sticker? Mud hole, Minnesota. You live in Cuamba. The town, yes. Oh, he wants to guess. What's that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I don't know Org. No, I don't think it's. I'm going to show you the small. You'll have more chance to win. Don't worry. But the smallest town is Funkley. It has a population of 5. Now, Funkley was the second smallest town up until a few years ago. Out in west central Minnesota, there was a town by the name of Tenny. Tenny or Tinny, depending on how you pronounce it. It had a population of 2. Unfortunately, they were an elderly couple and they both passed away. There's nobody in that town. Honestly, there's nobody in the town. The streets are there. The street signs are there. But there's no one living in that town. So Funkley went from the silver medalist to the gold. They're the smallest town. They have and it's north of Bemidji on the way up past Black Duck, Minnesota. How many know where that area is in Minnesota? So today it has 5 people, but it used to have a lot more people back when it had a Walmart. Did you know Funkley had a Walmart? See if I can get, there we go. There's the Walmart. That was the general store in Funkley, Minnesota. Probably back in the 1950s, looks like from the style. It was a logging town. So Funkley's the smallest town. Minneapolis is our largest town. What is our oldest town? Who claims to have be the oldest town in Minnesota? St. Paul, Stillwater, St. Anthony. These are all good guesses. They're all wrong, but they're good guesses. He gets to win. Wabasha, Minnesota. Give him a hand. What's your name? Chad wins the first prize. Wabasha, Minnesota. How'd you know that? Okay, so he drives for a living. Yeah, he's got an advantage over you guys. He's going to walk away with all the prizes if you don't stop him. But yes, Wabasha is the oldest town. It's the oldest town, but if you go over to Stillwater, oh, by the way, let me show you Wabasha. Here's Wabasha, Minnesota. How many saw the movie Grumpy Old Men? How many didn't need to see the movie, just had to go see your husband? Okay, but they say the movie was filmed in Wabasha, but most of the movie was filmed elsewhere. But they do talk about Wabasha. It's an old town. Dates back to the 1830s. I believe it was 1834 is when Wabasha was actually started. But if you go over to Stillwater, they claim to be the oldest town in Minnesota. How can they claim that when I've just told you, Wabasha, and Chad confirmed it, that it's the oldest town? Because Stillwater is the oldest incorporated town. Wabasha was unincorporated for a number of years. Stillwater is the oldest incorporated town. Who doesn't love Stillwater, right? Beautiful town. Do you know that we have the furthest northern town in America outside of Alaska? That little notch that goes into Canada? How many have been to the Angle Inlet? That's the name of the town. That is the furthest north town in America. So it is the furthest north town in Minnesota, obviously, right? So just out of curiosity, and I don't have pictures of the other three directionals, but the furthest east town in Minnesota. If you're going east, what's the last town before you? What's that? Afton. Interesting guess. No, it's not Afton. Grand Portage. How about to the south? Furthest southern town in Minnesota. It's near Harmony, but it's not Harmony. It's a little town called Granger. Granger literally is on the Iowa-Minnesota line. Main Street is the border. You can stand over here and you're in Lawrenceville, Iowa. Over here, you're in Granger, Minnesota. So now the one that nobody gets, the furthest one west. Wheaton. You're in the right direction, but you're a ways away. Pipestone. It's not Big Stone. And Big Stone technically is in South Dakota. It's on the other side from Ortonville. But Clint, you're going there, but it's not Ortonville either. It's not Browns Valley. These are all great guesses. But if you think of the state of Minnesota, the map, it angles to the west as it gets further north. It does not run straight up and down. So as you get further west, or north rather, you're further west. So you're going north of East Grand Forks to a little town on the Red River called Oslo. Oslo. And it's the only town in Minnesota that is named twice. There are 2 Oslos in Minnesota, which would make sense. We're all Sven and Ole Norwegians anyway, right? Yeah, you're agreeing. But we have an Oslo down by Rochester, and we have an Oslo that is the furthest western town in Minnesota. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the alphabet. You've been pretty enthusiastic. What's your name? What's your name? Tawny. Okay, I like that. Tawny, You're going to keep us on track in the alphabet because I didn't do well in school, okay? So when I ask you what letter we're on, you need to stay alert, all right? All right, she's got my back. I like that. I like that. All right, we're going to go through the alphabet, and I'm going to take a town from each of the letters of the alphabet. But I'm going to ask you, if you were going to do the program, what town would you pick for that letter? So we're going to start with A. And I know you're going to all say Anoka. I know that. And I should probably have picked Anoka, but I'm not going to because that's too easy. What would you pick? You'd pick Afton. Anybody on this side, if you were going to pick an A town that you like, Alec, we don't call it Alexandria. The locals call it Alec, right? That's a great town. I'm not picking Alexandria. I'm not picking Afton. I'm not picking Anoka. Annandale, Ada. Ada. Don't you love that one? What county is Ada the county seat in? I'm going to challenge your counties. Norman County. But I'm going to pick my A town. Did you know that we had a town in Minnesota called Alberta? You're clapping. Why? You did. I'm so sorry. She went to school in Alberta. No, I like Alberta. It's a little farm town. It's west of Morris. Okay? And I have to tell you, it was named after the section boss of the railroad, his wife. And many towns in Minnesota were named after railroad guys, their girlfriends, their mothers, or their wives. Pretty common, because Alberta is a railroad town. It was started by the railroad back in the 1880s. But I had to take a picture of this sign. Do you need to be told to drive carefully in Alberta? I mean, really. I mean, look at Main Street. This is Main Street, Alberta, and they put a big warning sign, drive carefully. How else can you drive in Alberta? But it's a great little town. What were they driving? Well, let's ask our resident from Alberta. So where was the high school? Really? So it's not still a high school today? I didn't think so. They probably all consolidated with Beardsley, with Chicago, and all those other little towns out there. But it is a farm town. I like this next picture I took of the grain elevators one night. You ever been in small towns in the fall when harvest is coming in? Just the sound of those elevators. It's a cool sound. If you've ever been out there, roll the windows down of your car or your truck and just listen to the elevator fans and how they work. It's a pretty neat sound. All right. Connie. B. We're on B. Oh. She's pretty sharp. I think she's going to have to get a consolation prize at the end. But what town would you pick for B? Bagley. Why Bagley? Oh, it's good. B. Everybody know where Bagley is? It's up near McIntosh. Doesn't help you, does it? It's the county seat of Clearwater County. Anybody else for a B town? Baudette, way up north in Baudette. Yeah, I spent a month there one night. Anybody else for a B town? Bach, I heard Bach. Bach, that's a really booming town, right? It's on the way to Ogilvie. I like Bach. I heard Big Fork. Bemidji. I'm going to go to this town, and I know my friend Zoma over here, she knows this town. See if I can get that to click. There it is. Benson, Minnesota. The reason I like Benson, there's a couple of reasons. It's a railroad town, but every town that I like the best has to have one feature in it. It has to have a bakery. How many know a town without a bakery is not really a town? And Benson's got a good bakery. But I've traveled all over Minnesota, and I love bakeries. Does it show? But I do like bakeries. What is your favorite bakery in Minnesota? What town has the best bakery? You think Cannon Falls. Lindstrom, they're both. Yes, I've eaten at both of those. It's not my favorite, though. I like the one that won the USA Today Top 10 list. America's Best Bakeries. Only one Minnesota bakery made that list. It wasn't in Benson. It wasn't in Cold Spring, although that would have made my list. It's out in Granite Falls. Okay? And for some reason, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. Steve? But it is so good. They even have a drive-up window. Like you can go get coffee or McDonald's or whatever. So you can go to the bakery in Granite Falls in your pajamas. Anyway, Benson has a good bakery. And the other thing I like about Benson, it's a railroad town, and the railroad actually splits the town in half. Last count, 18 trains go through Benson every day. So you have to time your life because they go through slow. And they're the longest trains you've ever counted. How many count cars sometimes? Yeah. So if you're late for work, you cannot use the excuse, the train, if you work on the other side of the tracks. But Benson's a great railroad town. Now, what are we on now? C. What town should we pick for C? Cannon Falls. You like the bakery, you like the town. Are you from Cannon? Awesome. It's a great town. Cambridge. Now, I'm going to pick one that you're going to recognize this one. How many know where Crown is? You know, Crown is one of those interesting little towns. It's right up here. I mean, you can get there in 15 minutes, right? Why is Crown even there? There was no railroad. It had a creamery at one time, but there's no reason Crown should be on the map. And that's not to be I bet there's somebody from Crown here. I'm sorry. Did I hurt your feelings? But did you know that Crown was in the news not too many years ago? How many remember when it was for sale, the entire town? You could buy it and be the self-proclaimed mayor, and here's rush hour in Crown. You could buy the town. Wouldn't you like to own a town? I don't know if it's sold. I'm not sure if it's sold or not. But Crown is one of those towns that you wonder, it didn't get the railroad. What is it there for? It's a German community. And to this day, no one seems to know how it was named. So I don't have an explanation on how it was named. Here's another shot of Crown in case you were trying to put your bid in for the town. And what letter are we on? D, of course. We're on D. What should we pick for D? Dalbo. I heard Dalbo up here. How many have been to Dalbo? I just like saying it. Other D towns? Denison. Why Denison? Denison is down by Northfield, down in that neck of the woods. Great little town. It's very Norwegian. Yeah, I like Denison. Dundee. Yeah, that's another great town. Dundas. How about Duluth? Let's go to one that we're all familiar with, right? Who doesn't love Duluth? Probably one of the most popular towns for summer vacations is Duluth. And every time you go to Duluth, isn't it always a fun place to go? Have you ever had a bad time in Duluth? No. How was Duluth named? What do you think? You don't care. You don't have a clue and you don't care. No, I'm joking. How was Duluth named, you guys? Oh, Judah, my friend in the back. He was. Judah, come up and get your prize. That's right. It was named after a French explorer by the name of Daniel Duluth. What else do you know about him? Do you know that Daniel Duluth was the guy that rescued Father Hennepin? Father Hennepin had been captured by the Dakota down by Lake Pepin. and he was brought up to what is now Cathio State Park. Father Hennepin was a French priest. Daniel Duluth is a French explorer, and he hears about this French priest in captivity. So he takes a bunch of goods and things that he can use as trade, and he'll go to the camp at Cathio, and he will trade ransom for the French priest. When he gets to the camp, the native Dakota said, "We don't want your stuff, just take him. We're tired of him." Do you know that Father Hennepin, all he did was talk. He never shut up. They captured him all the way up the Mississippi, up the Rum River to Lake Mille Lacs. Father Hennepin sat in the canoe and yammered all the time. The Indians were so tired of him, they took no ransom gifts. They just said, "Take him away from us." True story, but it was Daniel Duluth. And we have a town that we love. And as you go over the hill and you see the aerial lift bridge, you know you're on vacation. Trying to get this clicker to work. There we go. We've all been down to Canal Park, right? You know that up until 1980, you could actually ride on the aerial lift bridge road as it went up? Yeah. Wouldn't that have been cool? I don't remember that, but then somebody got injured and I believe tragically was killed, and now they won't let you to ride up the bridge. Here's another shot looking down the hill. That is not the courthouse, that's Central High School, looking down the hill in Duluth. All right, we're on letter E. I didn't even need your help on that one. I know, I'm picking this up. What would you pick for letter E? Ely, Eveleth, Elk River. Did I hear Esco? Esco, there's a great little town. What nationality is Esco? Finnish. You can't swing a dead cat in Esco and not hit a Finlander. I mean, they are thick as thieves in Esco. And they're wonderful people, by the way. Finlanders are great people. Esco is very Finland. We're not going to go to Esco. We're going to go to, sadly, a very economically depressed town. And it's not to be disparaging against the people, because they're wonderful people that live in this town, but they live in one of the poorest towns in Minnesota. Ever been to Eagle Bend? I know Sue has. And they're wonderful people that live up in Eagle Bend, but Todd County is one of the poorest counties in Minnesota. And when you drive into Eagle Bend, you can sense the difficulties that the town is having. You see it in the buildings. You just kind of feel it. And you do, but I do like this building in Eagle Bend. This is kind of one of my favorites. I like the style. I like the fact is the door is on an angle. It was the old bank in Eagle Bend. You know, I drive into so many towns in what I do, and I get a feel for them within the first few minutes. And Eagle Bend is one of those that you just kind of feel bad for them. What do you do for recreation in Eagle Bend? What's that? Yes, there is. There it is. It's the bowling alley. Even the bowling alley sign looks sad. Okay, now we're on the letter F. And I'm going to give out a pack of cards if you can guess what town it is. But I will give you a hint. The only one that cannot guess is Clint, because he's down that way. What is the town, it starts with the letter F, that's home for the wood duck? Home of the wood duck. Faribault. Who said Fulda? Fulda. Here you go, buddy. Home. How'd you know Fulda was home of the wood duck? Clint, did you know that? Oh, I should have let him guess. Did you know that Fulda is home of the wood duck? And I've been in Fulda 5 or 6 times, and I have never seen a wood duck. I'm serious. I've been looking for a wood duck in Fulda, but I've never found one. But Fulda is one of those great little towns, again, named for the wife of the railroad section boss. Her name was Fulda. And it's a typical little farm town. It's got the water tower, the main street. So what letter are we on? G. Now we went to Eagle Bend. Now we're going to go to a town about 20 miles away that has a completely different feel with the letter G. We're going to Gray Eagle. Now, why is Gray Eagle prosperous and 20 miles away, Eagle Bend is not? Yes, it's close to the lakes, it's close to resorts, it's close to those lakes by Sauk Center, Alexandria. It's close enough it gets tourists. Eagle Bend, sadly, is a little bit too far away. So when you go to Gray Eagle, little town, big heart, I love the slogan. When you drive into Main Street, every store is occupied, every storefront. It's thriving, it's alive. And in Gray Eagle is one of my favorite buildings in all of Minnesota. 1 block off of Main Street. Isn't that a fantastic New Deal era building, built in 1938? What town name is the most popular in America? Every state in America has this town name. It's only one town name that every state has. All 50 states have this town. I'm not giving you that hint. St. Peter, nope. Lincoln, no. No. Springfield. Every state in the country has a town of Springfield. What letter are we on? H. Holland. Do you know, before we get, I like both of those towns. I'll talk about both of them. But do you know that Holland, I want to make sure I get this right, is the fastest town in Minnesota that's losing population? Holland. Holland is just north of Pipestone. It is losing population the fastest. What town in Minnesota is gaining population the fastest as of the last census? It feels like Zimmerman is. It's not Zimmerman, but it's not far away. Rogers. Rogers is the fastest growing town in Minnesota according to the last census, which was done in 2018. So Rogers and Holland is the fastest losing population. And if you go to Holland, and I've been to Holland a few times, you sense it. But we're in H, so we're going to go to this town. We're not going to Henderson. And by the way, somebody mentioned Henderson. That's one of my favorite towns in Minnesota. It's an old river town. Summer crowd, yes. They have a wonderful car show every week in Henderson. And how do you know Henderson? So you know the guy that started that town, historically. No, it wasn't Duluth. Good try, though. See, that's why I like coming to Nowthen. You guys are fun. His name was Joseph Brown. And Joseph Brown was an early pioneer to Minnesota, but he started Henderson. But I like that town, but we're not in Henderson. What town are we in? Steve, what town are we in? Wonderful river town, very old town. Yeah, we're in Hastings. Yeah. Now, he's my invited guest. He wants a prize, but he doesn't get nothing. Yeah, we're in Hastings. How did Hastings get its name? Don't say John Hastings. That's not going to work. It was named after our first governor. But his name wasn't Hastings. Go back through the governor list. You won't find Governor Hastings. But you will find our first governor, Henry Hastings Sibley. It was his middle name. But the town was not named Hastings originally. There was an original town name, and I don't know why they changed it to Hastings. I haven't been able to figure that one out, but it used to be called Oliver's Grove. So all of a sudden, Sibley shows up. He wants the town named after him. So he petitions the state to change the name, but he runs into flack from a former governor by the name of Ignatius Donnelly, who says, well, I want to be in the running for the town name. So Donnelly and Hastings, Sibley, put their name in a hat. Somebody drew it out, and they drew out Hastings. Donnelly never talked to Sibley again. He thought he cheated. Do you know that Donnelly did get his town? It's out in western Minnesota, but it's not near the town of Hastings. But it's a great old river town. It's the county seat of Dakota County. If you were living in Hastings back in 1952, you would have remembered this historic landmark. How many remember seeing the spiral bridge? We've got a few people here. You must have been, what, 3, 4 years old? I'm joking. 1952? Yeah. But yeah, that was tore down in 1952. But what an incredible landmark in Hastings. The letter I, Isle. We're not going to go to Isle. We're going to go to a town that was named after a book by Sir Walter Scott, Ivanhoe. Ivanhoe. Look at that. Give her a hand. She knows her literature. We're going to Ivanhoe. Ivanhoe here it is, a little town in southwestern Minnesota. Do you know that Ivanhoe, yes, it was named after the book from Sir Walter Scott, but it is the smallest county seat town in Minnesota. Smallest county seat town. What county is it? Who was that? Lincoln. He's won already. But he's right. How'd you know that? Nobody's ever guessed that in my shows. Been through there enough times. Lincoln County, one of the smallest populated counties in Minnesota, and Ivanhoe, the smallest county seat. This is rush hour, one red pickup. But across the street from where I took this picture, I noticed that building. You see it in this photo here, but you'll see it closer up here. This industry kept towns alive in Minnesota. After the wheat boom was over, most towns in Minnesota, as farmers went into dairy, we needed creameries. And the creameries began to pop up all over Minnesota. And you can go to towns from Dalbo to Elk River to Anoka, anywhere around here, anywhere in Minnesota, you will find creameries. And if you find the original creamery building, you guys, look for the dates. I challenge you to find a creamery that was built before 1900 or built after 1940. They were built in that window of time in agriculture where creameries were popping up all over America. But did you know that the first creamery came from a town in Minnesota? The first cooperative creamery in America was in a town in Minnesota. What town was it? It starts with the letter C, helping you out here. It's down by Albert Lee, and it's called Clark's Grove, the first cooperative creamery in America, and the building is still there today. So creameries kept towns going, but unfortunately, with the larger creameries and dairies, the small cooperative creameries began to close in the 1960s and 70s, and many of these creamery buildings stand empty today. Now they're being refurbished for art studios and other things like that, or just left to go. We're going to go to the town. What letter are we on? Maybe the most Minnesota town name that you can possibly come up with. I'm not even going to comment with an answer like that. But Johnson. Now, my friend from Alberta knows everything about Johnson. They were your neighbors, weren't they? She doesn't know. It's out by Alberta. Johnson. Now, I had to take a picture of the sign because it said population 29. Well, I went into town that day, and there was an older guy, working on a lawnmower. So I rolled the window down on my truck, and I started talking to the guy, and I said, "Where is everybody?" And he said to me, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, the population says 29 on the sign." He said, "Not even on a good day." But that's a Minnesota town, right? Johnson. The letter K, right? We got to keep moving along here. What's that? Kimball. Good town. Good town. I like Kimball, but I didn't pick Kimball. I picked a bedroom community of Rochester called Casson. Ever been to Casson? Used to be a small town. Now it feels like a suburb of Rochester. But it's got the old Main Street, old storefronts. I like Casson. But what I really like about this town, and it was named after the guy that started the town, William Casson, but what I like about it isn't so much the name. I like that it has maybe the best water tower in all of Minnesota. You know, water towers are cool in towns, aren't they? Who's got a favorite water tower? Lindstrom. Of course you pick Lindstrom. The tea kettle, right? That's a good one. Coffee pot, tea kettle. Egg coffee, probably, right? Yeah, good Swedes over there. Any other good water towers in Minnesota? Pipestone's got a good one, yeah. They have that concrete water tower in Pipestone. But Casson's is pretty cool. Now, I have to tell you guys, when I took this picture, I got to know the mayor of Casson. And he said, "Do you want to go up to the top of the water tower?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll take you up there. I have the key." So we climb. There's a door. We climb inside up until where that stairwell starts. Then you go out this little door, and you get out on this stairway. And I didn't think I was really scared of heights until I did this. And the handrail is low. I mean, I could have flopped out any time. He scampered up like a monkey. And when you got to that platform, you see it halfway up there, right where the metal hits. I sat down. He says, keep coming, go to the walkway. I go, "No, I can't go any further." Because there was no handrail on those last 3 steps. So you want adventure? Hang out with me. But a great water tower. What letter are we on? L. Lindstrom. LeSueur. Good towns. Little Fork. Lake Crystal. Did I hear Lake City? What was invented in Lake City in 1922? And who invented it? What's that? Unbelievable. He's gotten 3 questions. Have you been following me? You've seen this program. Ralph Samuelson. I have asked that question 1,000 times, and you're the only one ever to know who it was. Do you just read all those books that I read? Ralph Samuelson in 1922 invents water skiing. But we're not going to go to Lake City. We're going to this town. Now, how many? The highway sign is 27. A little snow is covering it. So what town are we in? If you know highways in Minnesota, what town is it? Little Falls. Good job. And the famous aviator Charles Lindbergh, right? But it's a great town. It's on the river. It was a lumber milling town. Little Falls. One of, I believe there's 11 towns in Minnesota with falls in them. Can you name some of them? Cannon Falls. Of course, she'd say Cannon Falls. Say that for every question. You'll eventually get it. But you're right, Cannon Falls. International Falls, Taylor's Falls, Big Falls, Redwood Falls, Chippewa Falls. What's that? Taylor's Falls. Do you know the only town that has falls in it that doesn't have a falls? Does anyone know what that town name is? It's something Falls. What is that something? Nope, Granite Falls has a waterfall. That's in Wisconsin. We can't go there. Hanley Falls. Hanley Falls. South of Granite Falls, down halfway to Marshall. Do you know why Hanley Falls is called Hanley Falls? It used to be called Hanley. But back before zip codes, mail going to Hawley and mail going to Hanley got mixed up. And they got so tired of it that Hanley finally decided we're going to add Falls to our name, and the mail mix-up taken care of. So that's why it's called Hanley Falls, and Hawley gets their mail. But here's Little Falls again. Great little town. It's fun to take pictures at Christmas time. We're on the letter M, right? Best restaurant in Minnesota. Manterville. The Hubble House. You guys have eaten there. You know the town. Yeah. How many have eaten at the Hubble House in Manterville? It's pretty good, isn't it? Well, Cannon Falls, you weren't that far away. I know. Yeah. The Hubble House is right there on the corner. But do you know that Manterville, it is the county seat of Dodge County, and it had high hopes and dreams, but it never got the railroad. Towns that didn't get the railroad had a harder time, but the railroad was going to ensure you were going to make it. There's very few towns in Minnesota on the railroad that didn't make it. But there's a lot of little towns like Crown and others that struggle because it didn't get the railroad. And Manterville was lucky, though, because they got the county seat and the courthouse. The courthouse up the hill from, in this picture, you see it coming through the trees, is the oldest courthouse in Minnesota still being used. It dates to 1866. That's 1 year after the American Civil War was over. The oldest courthouse building in Minnesota is the one in Stillwater, Washington County. That is our oldest. But Manterville is number 2. Here's another shot of Manterville. It's a charming little town. It's on the south branch of the Zumbro River. There was a mill there, but they never got the railroad. The letter N is maybe the most German town you'll find in Minnesota, New Ulm. When a lot of the Germans came to America, and a lot of ethnicities for that matter, but Germans were known for it, when they came here, they brought their name of their town from the old country. They just put the word New in front of it. New Germany, New Munich, New Ulm, New Prague, although New Prague is Czech. It was that idea to bring the old name and just put New in it because they wanted to have a tie to the old country. And New Ulm is a great town. How many enjoy going to New Ulm? Yeah, it's a great town. Like German food? Yeah, it's pretty good. Do you know that New Ulm almost didn't make it? In 1862, it was completely burned to the ground, with the exception of one building. And the only reason that one building survived, it was the only building made of brick and stone. Everything else was wood. This is an old postcard I found. See if I can get this to work here. Taken to New Ulm. And after the Dakota War, and they started rebuilding New Ulm, they had a city ordinance that lasted over 40 years. You could not build with wood because the town didn't want another fire. So when you go to New Ulm today, you will find great old houses, but they're all made of brick. And ironically, we say, everything was made of wood. Do you know that the town of Hinckley was known the town made of wood? How did that work in 1894 for the Hinckley folks? It didn't work too well, but what letter are we on? O. What shall we use for O? Or. I like or. That's way up north. Ogilvy. What nationality is Ogilvy? If you're going to Ogilvy, what language do you want to be able to speak? Not Swedish, not Finnish, not Norwegian. They're Dutch. They're Dutch. The Dutch settled Ogilvy, just like they did Pease. But we're not going to Ogilvy or to Orr. We're going to a great little town that's thriving today because, again, location, location, location. It is near the lakes. It's near resorts. It's called Osakis. Osakis. And every store front is occupied. It's thriving today. How many have had Jacob's Lefse from Osakis? Famous, there's two elderly gals that make this Lefse that you would drive to Osakis for sure. And the other thing, when you're in Osakis, you got to get the best ice cream in Minnesota, right? And it's called the Tip Top. It's not the Dairy Tree. It's called the Tip Top. It's been there since 1955, I think is the date. How many have seen the Tip Top right there on the main drag through Osakis? Summertime, you wait in line, but it is really, really good. P. I'm going to take you to two towns with the letter P. First one I'm going to take you to is Pine River. Everybody know where Pine River is? It's north of Brainerd, heading up 371. For a gift, Pine River is the capital in Minnesota of what? What is Pine River the capital of? Nope. And along the river, there's a big sign that you can get your picture taken with. No, it's not Paul Bunyan. How many have gone to those things where you put your face through the plywood? Isn't that fun? That's a blast. But at the very bottom of this sign, it will tell you what they're known for. They are Minnesota's s'more capital. How many like those? Are we having those for dessert downstairs after? Oh, man. How many knew that was the s'more capital of Minnesota? You know, when you think about these towns, they established this. We're the capital or the largest. How many have driven around and looked at, the largest ball of twine in Darwin and all those quirky things? The s'more capital, that's pretty cool, actually, because we all like s'mores. How would you like to live in Madison, Minnesota? They're the lutefisk capital of Minnesota. Their hands are waving like you're hoping we have lutefisk downstairs. We're not having that, are we, Pastor? Good. What letter are we on? Well, I gave you this one before. Oh, I got one more P town, because I like this town. I didn't want to exclude Pipestone. Pipestone is a great town. It's a railroad town, and it's named because of that rock that is quarried right outside of Pipestone. But the buildings in town are not made out of Pipestone. Same kind of color as Pipestone, but Pipestone, the rock, is soft. In fact, you can almost carve it with a butter knife. And Native Americans have been using pipestone for ceremonial pipes and other artifacts for, we don't know how long, but hundreds, if not thousands of years. What is the stone that they use to build the buildings in Pipestone? If it's not pipestone, what is it? It's not sand. It's called Sioux quartzite. So when you go to Pipestone, I like the Pipestone buildings. Well, it is the town of Pipestone, but they don't use it's way too soft to make buildings out of it. But I took this picture because every town in Minnesota that is now a town has to have a pizza ranch. How many have been to Iowa? You can't go to any town in Iowa without seeing a pizza ranch. They're coming to Minnesota. Right downtown, right in the main old section, you got Pizza Ranch. Come on. The clicker, there it comes. Do you know that it has a really cool old hotel? It's called the Calumet. And you've been to the Calumet. So the rumor is, I've stayed there twice, and I have yet to confirm it, but they say it's haunted. Did you hear anything? It was under construction. You thought those were jackhammers, but that was not jackhammers. But it's an old hotel that used to be a bank in town. But you know what's really cool about Pipestone? If you're ever there with your kids or grandkids, take them on a hunt, looking for all the weird faces. It's kind of like a look for Waldo type of thing. Throughout the town of Pipestone, you'll find these reliefs carved into the stone of the side of the buildings. And there's a lot of them, but you have to look for them. So walk around with the kids and try to find as many of these weird-looking, they're not gargoyles, they're kind of cartoony in a way. Let me show you one here. There's one. Kind of a clown jester. So now we're on the letter, and the only town in letter Q, we talked about it earlier, is Mudhole. Cuamba. It is an Indian word. It's on Highway 23. How many have been through Cuamba? But Cuamba it's got an interesting name and origin, but do you know that there's a famous person from Cuamba? Who is the most famous person in America's history from Cuamba? Van Johnson. Do you know the man, his name is Boston Colbert, he is the man who is credited for killing John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of President Lincoln. He had a cabin outside of Cuamba, and he died in the Great Hinckley Fire of 1894. Remember the story of John Wilkes Booth? He's captured in a barn in Virginia, and he gets shot? That was Boston Colbert. After that, he made his way to Minnesota, and he died in the woods outside of Cuamba. Now when you go to a dinner party at home, conversation gets a little dull, bring that up, it'll liven the whole party. People go, wow, you know that? Try it. I've used it. You want to see Rush Hour at Cuamba? Here we go. Come on, come on. There we go. There's busy rush hour in Cuamba. What letter? R. We're in letter R. Who doesn't love this town? Probably one of the most popular, kind of like Duluth. Everybody loves Red Wing, don't we? Yeah. When you think of Red Wing, what do you think of? That big hill. What's that big hill called? What's that? No, you're wrong. It's not called Barnes Bluff. It's called Barn Bluff. There's no S on it. There's only one. It's a barn. Barn Bluff is the name. No, you got it right, but it's called Barn Bluff. What else do you think of in Red Wing? Pottery, shoes, antique stores, yes, good restaurants. But what most people don't realize, that Red Wing was named after an Indian chief by the name of Red Wing, but more importantly, the town was the largest exporter of wheat in America than any other town in the 1880s. More wheat was sent out of Red Wing. That's why when you go to Red Wing, you'll see these big grain elevators. Archer Daniel Midland owned some of them, and other companies own them, but they were shipping wheat out of Red Wing more than any inland port in America. It would later be surpassed by Duluth, Superior, and then Buffalo, New York. But Red Wing was the wheat, and today there's no wheat being sent out of Red Wing. But the remnants of the early days of this town, it was built on the money of agriculture. It wasn't shoes, it wasn't pottery, and it certainly wasn't antiques. But who doesn't love walking the streets of this old river town? How many have stayed at the St. James? How many stayed at the Super 8? No. But if you were lucky enough to stay at the St. James, you should know this. Oh, here it is. You should know this question. All the rooms in the hotel are named after what? Presidents. No, you didn't win. I'm sorry. She was hoping she won, but you're going to win something just because you've been such a good helper today. But no, it's not presidents. What are all the rooms in the hotel named after? What's that? She's my cousin. I can throw it at her. Boats. Yes, river boats. Did you know that, or was that a guess? You did know it. All right, yes, river boats. And did you notice when you're in the St. James, the hallways in the hotel are extra wide? Because back when the hotel was in its heyday, women with hoop skirts had to walk side by side. If you went out without your husband, you were escorted by another lady. And two ladies had to walk side by side, and their skirts were like this. So the hallways are extremely wide. It's the second oldest hotel still operating in Minnesota. It's only surpassed in the oldest town of Wabasha called the Anderson House. That is the oldest hotel still in use. And what was the Anderson House known for? Cats. How many remember the cats? Yeah. They don't have cats there anymore, but you used to be able to get a cat brought to your room. How many would like that? How many would go to the Super 8 if that was the case? Yeah, okay. What letter are we on? T. We're out, well, S. Don't we have S first? Oh, whoa, I don't know. I need another helper. I know, but you don't have any excuses. You can't get yourself out of that one. Where are we in this shot here, you guys? No, I'm joking. You've been great. What town is S? Everything in town is Main Street. Sauk Center, Minnesota. I like Stewartville, but this is Sauk Center. Because Main Street is a book written by the famous American Minnesota author, Sinclair Lewis. How many read it in school? How many went to school? They didn't teach that? You didn't have that in literature or English? How many read Main Street, have read it? Okay, this is falling flat here, because I was going to ask you, he talks about his town, because he grew up in Sauk Center, and he makes fun of the town. He doesn't like the town. He makes fun of Midwest values. And for the longest time, the town didn't like him. Now they've embraced him, and everything is because it's tourist, right? But he called his town, in his book called Main Street, he didn't call it Sauk Center. Does anyone know what he called the town? He called it a great Minnesota town name, that if we ever start a new town, let's start a new town right out north of Nowthen. We could start a town. Let's call it Gopher Prairie. That's what Sinclair Lewis called the town. Main Street Theater. Sinclair Lewis Avenue. And right across the street, kitty corner from this picture here, is another old hotel. Come on. Yes, the Palmer House, kind of like the Calumet in Pipestone. It's supposed to be haunted. I'm not sure, but it's a cool old historic hotel. Now what are we on? I'm thinking it's T. Yeah, it's T. Togo. Now, most people don't know Togo. Besides you and I, are we the only two in the room that know where Togo is? It is. Highway 1, the longest state highway in Minnesota. Togo is north and east of Grand Rapids. It's out in the woods. Only people that snowmobile know where Togo is, right? Yeah, north of Nashwauk, okay, more importantly. But anyway, Togo. I'm not going to take you to Togo. Any other T-towns? Tower. Twig. I like Twig. Why'd you say Tracy? Well, in honor of your husband, we're in Tracy. Again, named after a girlfriend of the railroad section boss, Tracy. Tracy's this great little town out on Highway 14, out in west central Minnesota. And it's a great farm town. Here's Main Street, Tracy. It has a great New Deal City Hall, if I can get the clicker to work. The municipal building, built in the 1930s. She's on her Google phone. She typed in alphabet.
The next one is U, and my guess is Upsala.
I heard Yulin, I heard Uppsala. Do we have any others? Are there any other U towns? Underwood, right? Just because it's you. Is it Uppsala? Yeah. Where life is always looking up. Who doesn't love that slogan, right? Uppsala, Minnesota. What nationality is Uppsala? It's very Swedish. There's an Uppsala, Sweden. So again, bringing that old name back when the immigrants came here. So what letter are we on, Uppsala? That'll be your new name. We're still on you. Do you know that Velard, Minnesota, how many have heard of Velard? It's on the way, it's south of Alexandria on the way over to Glenwood. You take the shortcut from Sauk Center over to Glenwood, you go right by Velard. Velard, Mr. Velard was a railroad man. He was a compatriot of James J. Hill. So he had to name a town for himself, right? Just like a little town down in the southwest called Hills by Laverne, named after James J. Hill. But Velard got his town. And if you've ever been to Velard, it's not real busy. But I'm going to share a couple things with you about Velard. Here's rush hour again. But Velard has recently established a suburb. Yeah, a suburb. And you wouldn't have found Velard suburb 20 years ago, but you will today. In town is a park. And in the park, they call it Velard suburb. They've given it a name. They don't call it the suburb of Velard. They call it Pottyville. It is a large group of outhouses that have been built. There's probably 20 of them that you can go see a bunch of outhouses, and they call it Pottyville. It is the suburb of Velard. It's true. I'm not making that up, you guys. Some of you are taking a trip this weekend. We're going to Velard. We got to check out Pottyville. And it's people designing these creative outhouses, and they're really fun. So if you ever get up there, check out the suburb of Velard. W. Where are we going in W, you guys? We're almost to the end of the alphabet. Wilmer, Wyndham. Williams, way up there. Williams is up on the Canadian border. It's up on the Rainy River. Wabasha, we already talked about Wabasha. We don't want to give them too much credit. What's that? Wadena, Worthington, all great towns. Winona, nobody's guessed the one I picked. Warroad, Walker. Oh, wow, great names. How many read the Laura Ingalls stories? And what was the book she wrote about when they lived in Walnut Grove? On the banks of Plum Creek, yeah. You know, Walnut Grove, it's not very far from Tracy, is it? Just down the road. But Walnut Grove was a struggling town up until the last maybe 15 or so years. Walnut Grove has made a comeback. You know why? because of a new immigrant group that has made Walnut Grove their home. A large group of Hmong immigrants have moved to Walnut Grove, and they've embraced the town. They've revived the town. In fact, if you go to Walnut Grove, you will see this mural, they have put themselves into the story of Laura Ingalls. How cool is that? They didn't erase the story. They just said, we want to be a part of it. Isn't that cool? Walnut Grove is thriving today because of the industrious people that we call our Hmong friends. Many of them came from St. Paul or directly from Southeast Asia, settling in Walnut Grove. I think that's a wonderful story on how towns change for the positive. Where Walnut Grove was struggling, but now they're not. But it was in Walnut Grove, if you look closely in the far left of that picture, I found, and I've only found 5, I think there's more, but I've only found 5 working phone booths. When you go to this phone booth in Walnut Grove, it actually works. There's a dial tone. When's the last time you used a phone booth? Bring your grandkids to that and say, check this out. It's better than the Antique Roadshow. This is good stuff. What letter are we on? We have no town with the letter X. Can't give you one. We don't have one. Why? What would you pick for why? Young America. I could have picked Young America, but I picked a town, but I don't have a photo of it, but I have a map of where it is. Do you know that we have a town called Yucatan? Yucatan, Minnesota, way down Fillmore County. In June, we're going to go down to see Yucatan, aren't we, guys? My friends here. Yeah, we're going to go see this town. I've seen it, but I don't have a picture of it. So anyway, what? Z. We got Zumbrota, Zimmerman. There's 2 more that I can think of. Zumbro Falls, another falls town, by the way. What is the name of the town just north of Lake Itasca State Park on the way to Bagley? Who is from Bagley? Nobody will admit it. Now, the town is called Zirkle. Not Circle, Zirkle. But I'm not going to take you to Zirkle. I'm going to take you to... Oh. Wow. I got to work on the organization. I'm going to take you to Zumbrota. Yeah. Okay. In conclusion of the program, we're going to do another fun little quick game. It won't take very long. We've gone through the alphabet, and you guys have done fantastic. My friend back here, give her a hand. On the back table in the lobby, you can pick anything you want off that table. That is your gift. Yeah. I'm going to show you 5 pictures. And the person that can get most of them correct out of the 5. And there's no hand raising. It's a free-for-all. Okay? So this is, yell it out. The first time I hear the town, I'm going to show you a picture, and you got to tell me where I took this picture. So here we go. Actually, I apologize. Before we get to that, I want to just show you a couple quick last stories, and then we're going to get to the last game. Do you know that we have a town in Minnesota called Arthide? Never heard of it. It's up in Aiken County, because it was started by 2 brothers. Their names were Arthur and Clyde. Arthide is how they came up with the name. That's the town. You can't read it from where you're seated, but it says Arthide was supposedly named after 2 brothers, Arthur and Clyde Hutchins. That was the town. Do you know there's nothing left in the town today but one old stone house? This is the town of Arthide. Not far from Arthide in Aiken County, I found another town that almost became the oldest town or the smallest town in Minnesota. Whoops, wrong picture. How many have heard of Solana? It used to be, if you look at the old maps, it used to be called Slow Anna. Honest. You can look at the maps and you can verify it. It's up in Aiken County, and it was on the Sioux Line Railroad. It was a stop, had a depot, and there was a lady that worked as a cook at the depot for the railroad people, and her name was Ann, and she was very slow at providing food. And they named the stop Slow Anna. Well, we've since changed it to Solana, but look, it's got population 7, and it's on a flip chart. And how many want to write that number down? Because you can buy lots, and you can flip it to 8 when you move in. All right, 5 pictures. Where is this? Where is the original A&W family? How many remember the Teen Burger, the Papa Burger, the Mama Burger, and all of that? What town still retains the original A&W family? It's not Cloquet, not Brainerd. They can't compete with Paul Bunyan. Pequot Lakes, no. They're in Pipestone. All right. Hey, don't feel bad. It's still 0-0, okay? Nobody's ahead, so you still have an equal chance. They're in Pipestone. One of only 2 towns in Minnesota that you park in the middle of Main Street. But this is not Park Rapids. In Park Rapids, you park parallel. In this town, you park at an angle. It's not Grand Rapids. It's not Virginia. What town do you park at an angle in Main Street and the street goes on both sides of the car, and when people back up, you got a lot of fender benders? What town still has Main Street parking in the middle at an angle? And Clint, you should know this. It's down your way. It's in Slayton. In Slayton, Minnesota. All right, we got a barn burner going, 0-0. All right. See if I can get this. Who said it? Peas. She's up 1-0. All right. Peas. Okay. Yes. Dutchtown, right? One of the coolest old school buildings you'll ever find in Minnesota. What town are we in? What town? And there's someone in this room that should know this town. And it's my cousin. Come on, Sue. Robin would know. Don't blame it on your sister. It's the town of Hewitt. Hewitt. Isn't that a wonderful building that's been saved? Okay, last one. You better hope nobody gets, because then we're going to have a tiebreaker. Where on June 22nd every year is Swede Fest? Not in Lindstrom. It's not in Mora. You would think with the Dollar Horse it would be Mora, but it's not. It's not in Uppsala. It's not in Cannon Falls. Have you won anything yet? You should. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a hint. It is a little town, probably as small as Funkley, but it made WCCO for years. When Boone and Erickson would do their radio show in the mornings, they would talk about this town and make fun of it in a fun, joking way. What was the town? And they talked about it because they said it had an international airport. No, it wasn't Wyndham. Do you remember Boone and Erickson show on the radio? Yeah, so what was the town that they kind of joked about? No. And they said it had an international airport, and Lutefisk Airlines would fly in there. Kind of like Lufthansa, but they said Lutefisk. It was the town of Bernadotte, Minnesota. Bernadotte. How many remember them talking about Bernadotte and the international airport in Bernadotte? And there's about 3 houses and 1 old church in Bernadotte. But they have Swedefest every year for 1 day. It's not a 2-day event because they don't have enough people, but they do it for 1 day a year. You know, I've gone way too long, you guys. You guys have been so kind to let me talk. And thank you for participating. You remember, name that town. It's a verb, so you guys handled that perfectly. So thank you for that. Thank you. I will leave you with this. This summer, get out and explore Minnesota. Get onto the less traveled highways and byways and see the towns and stop in, go to the cafes, go to the bakeries, and enjoy this wonderful place we call Minnesota. Because we are blessed to live here. Some days we don't think that when it's cold and it's 20 below zero, but generally speaking, we live here because we love this state. And I certainly do too. Thank you, everybody. My stuff is in the back, and I'll have a cup of coffee with you downstairs as well. Thank you.
As Doug said, he's got stuff on the table in the back. I encourage you to go visit with him, look at those things, see if there's anything you want to purchase from him and help support what he does. And then we have some light dessert available in the cafe. If you want to stay around, there's no pressure to, but there is some available for you down there as well.